Welcome everyone for coming. So take a moment to settle in, gather all your things that you might want to have, and if you don't have something, just walk quietly to another room to grab an extra pillow. And I'm going to invite you to start lying on your back. I'm not going to come lying on my back right now because my voice will project better with me sitting up. And if lying on your back is not where you want to be, feel free to be sitting up or reclining on your sofa. But where it lying down, the nice thing about it is you can use the floor to give you some feedback. And we are also going to do some movements on the floor, which of course you could again modify. So either sit tall if that's your preference, or come to lying down. I'm going to slowly make my way to lying down. When you're lying down, it's important to consider if you want head support, but it's also important not to assume that you need it. I always use head support when I teach on Zoom because if my head is too low, my voice doesn't project. So come to lying on your back. Again, if it's one of the students mentioned lying on the back isn't so comfortable before class began. So anyone feel free to stay sitting. If you sit, you might want to lean against a wall. And if you're comfortable for a moment lying down with your limbs straight, I know that's not real comfortable for me for long, but it gives you a nice sense of what your body shape is. You get feedback from the floor. So close your eyes, get comfortable, relax your shoulders, and notice what jumps out at you. If something is painful, adjust. You can have your knees bent. And again, not to be repetitive, but sometimes people come in and they see me lying down and they're like, oh, I have to lie down. You don't have to lie down. You could be sitting up, but just make sure you're sitting comfortable. And just notice how you feel without judgment. Notice if there's any areas of disturbance in the body. Notice how your back meets the floor. If you're leaning against a wall or sitting on your bottom, notice how that feels. Sort of taking a little assessment in a sense of what we're bringing into our class tonight. And then when you have some idea of how you feel, move into your breath and stay present with your breath as it rolls in and as it rolls out. You don't need to change your breath in any way, but notice before class, some of us were chatting about allergies and you might be stuffy. So notice if the breath is restricted. Notice if it's restricted through congestion in the nose or congestion in the throat. And yes, if you do have a lot of congestion, lying down can actually make that a little worse. So if you are lying down at any point during the practice, you might want to have a little extra padding under your head so your head is a little lifted up. Take one more moment here just to notice what's going on. We're going to start with some arm movements. Bend your knees and place your feet lightly on the floor. And take your arms by your side with your palms facing your hips. A little energetic reach to the arm, but you don't want to feel like you're yanking the shoulders away from the ears. Just a little energetic reach. See if you can find that and let your feet be soft on the floor. And then lift up your right arm on a diagonal. So it's midway between being on the floor, horizontal, and vertical, the ceiling. And without thinking of not at all yanking on your shoulder, just reach your arm a little bit. You might not even see me doing it because it's a small movement. You're reaching through your fingertips. And as you do this, you might notice your shoulder blade kind of clumping against the floor a little bit. So that's what's going on with that shoulder blade. Notice how that feels. Bring that arm down. Do the same with your left. Send it out on diagonal, not horizontal on the floor, not straight up. Energize your fingers. Keep your body relaxed and heavy. And just through your fingertips, move a little bit straight ahead, like aim it from your middle finger and see if you can feel your shoulder blade moving. And you might notice that one shoulder blade is really flopping around back there against the floor and the other one not so much. So just notice what's going on there. And then come back to your first arm, your right arm, and see if you can take it straight up. But don't lift the shoulder. Hopefully you can see that. Oh, my arms are way up there, but I'm lifting my shoulder. Keep your shoulder heavy to the floor and energize your fingertips away from the shoulder. If it doesn't feel right to have your arm vertical, bring it a little lower. On the same principle, if it feels okay, you can start reaching your arm back behind you. Try not to bend the elbow. So if the elbow needs to bend, you know that's a point where you need to stop. And don't go to your very end of your range. So even if you think, oh, I can get a little lower, then we could save that for another time. And then bring your right arm down. And then take your left arm, reach it up. If you can get it vertical, fingertips reaching toward the ceiling, great. If you can, have it a little lower. Kind of relax, like sigh that shoulder and that shoulder blade into the mat. And then start exploring your range of motion in that shoulder, keeping the elbow firm, not locked, don't let it bend, and reach the arm behind you. It may not go behind you at all, and that's perfectly normal. That might be, that's a normal range of motion for some of us. And then bring that arm down. We'll come back to that in a moment. Now your legs. Stretch your right leg out and just take it out there without doing anything. So just let it be kind of floppy. The leg will flop out. Now roll the legs, the back of the heel is down. Point the foot, see how that feels, and then flex the foot. So we're moving in the ankle. Point and flex a few times. The knee does not have to be very straight. And then bend the right knee, place that foot down, extend the left leg out, let it be floppy for a moment. Notice most of us, our leg will roll out, like left leg will roll to the left. So now rotate your legs, the back of your heel is down, and then point the toes and flex. So you're really pointing, we're moving in the ankle joint, and just make these small movements. Just to notice maybe what feels a lot better. Notice if you feel any restrictions there or if things are moving around pretty good. And then drag that leg back in. We're going to alternate extending one leg and the opposite arm. It's a great stretch for the back. I know sometimes it's uncomfortable on the back for some of us, but when you're on the floor and if you're comfortable, it's a really good position for most of our backs because we're not slumping. The floor won't let us slump. So here I would say the least amount of propping you need under your head would be best. So keep that in mind. We're going to start with the right arm and the left leg. So when you're ready, as you inhale, extend your right arm forward, maybe up, maybe on a diagonal behind you. Extend your left leg. It can be pointed or flexed. If one feels better, do that. On an exhale, bring your left leg back home and your right arm by your side. I need a little more room behind me. On your next inhale, left arm, right leg. Notice if one side one was easier for you, one combination. As you exhale, gently condense your belly and bring it on back. Again, inhale, left leg reaches out, right arm reaches out. Don't force your limbs to be as far as mine are at the moment. So just do what feels right. Now bring your awareness to the right side, upper right side of your chest, and think of a diagonal line down to your left hip and even to your left hip crease. And on your next inhale, imagine that you're breathing into that diagonal line. And then as you exhale, bring the limbs back home, pause, and when you're ready, right leg, left arm. Lengthen them. Again, you can have the arm like this. Maybe the knee doesn't go straight, so you'll be here. Just find the length you have, and then find the diagonal line from the left armpit chest down like a sash to your right hip. And on your next breath, think about inhaling into that space. And exhale, bring the limbs back home and just pause here, take a full breath. Notice if you notice anything different about the way your body meets the mat, including, I don't want to be on my back anymore. If it feels okay, we'll do one more each side. Inhale, right arm, left leg. Exhale, condense your belly a little bit, bring your limbs back home. And second side, left arm, right leg. And the nice thing about this is we're taking up space. Exhale, bring it back home. A lot of times through the day at work, we're rushing around, we're tight, we're taking up a lot of space here. Roll over to your most comfortable side and just come up to sitting for a moment. We're going to do a movement where we're lying on one side at a time. But to prepare for that, if your hip is a little sensitive, you could take a blanket and pad up your mat a little bit for that. Whether or not you think you need a blanket, trust me, you will under your head. Because when we're lying on our side, what happens? The head goes like that. So we want to fill the space. So take padding ready for under your head and have some spare towels extra because you want that to be pretty comfortable. And then take another blanket or towel. I have like a whole collection of here, which just goes to show you anything will work. This is a yoga blanket. So, and I'm going to fold, I have already folded a rectangle and I'm going to fold it in half. So we might use this shape in another pose. So you want to have a long, narrow rectangle. Place that in front of you. I'm starting on my right side, so you may want to do that. Again, you might want to have a blanket underneath that hip. Take that out of the way so you can see. Come to lying down. Have this fully under your head. I have to have it on not quite in the right spot so it doesn't hit my earpiece. And you'll see what I mean. If you feel like your shoulder feels jammed, get a little more height under there. Okay? Make sure you're lying with the head and the hips in line. Bend your knees, stack your legs one on top of the other. Remember this prop? It might feel more comfortable. Of course, it fell apart. This prop to rest on the bottom leg. So this way, when the legs are on top of each other, you have cushioning between the inner knee joint and the ankle joint. So legs just get to hang out on this one. So make sure they're comfortable. Take your right arm out in front of you with the palm up. Make sure you're lying fully on your side, not over to your belly or not leaning back. Reach your left arm up to the ceiling. Doesn't have to be perfectly straight here. Lower your left arm on top of the right. And then from that shoulder blade, which we were poking around with at the beginning of class, reach your left arm forward, but don't force it. So slide it a little closer to the fingertips of the bottom hand. Pick the arm up a few inches, bend the elbow, back of the hand to your forehead, very dramatic, woe is me. And now gently roll your left shoulder back. You don't have to go all the way. Go slowly. Make sure this, those of you mentioned you have hip issues. You might get a little stretch in the hip here, even though this work is for the upper body. Maybe it doesn't feel so good with your hip, so don't turn as much. Come back to lying on your side. Release the top arm. Stack it on top of the right. And you'll notice, like in my case, the fingertips are only about at my wrists. So now from the shoulder blade of your left arm, see if you can reach the arm a little further. Make sure it feels good. Take it up a few inches. Bend the elbow. Woe is me. Slowly roll that left shoulder back. Inhale here. And exhale, roll it back. One more time like that. Extend the top arm. Slide the top hand along the bottom arm. Lift the arm up, bend the elbow, back of the hand to the forehead, and open it up. Now keep your hand on your forehead. And you're going to roll back to the side position, but we're just going to keep the arm here. And as you inhale, open up. Exhale, draw your belly in, roll back to lying on your side. Inhale. Open it on up. Exhale, back to your side. Take a full breath here. And then when you're ready, one more time, inhale. Roll over back behind you. Now, the left side of you is kind of dangling. So we want to be comfortable. So you may, first of all, want to take the hand off your forehead here. You might want to rest it on your hip. You could rest it behind you. I happen to have a handy prop back here, so you could rest it on a prop. And then you could slide your right shoulder blade and the right side of your back a little over to the right. So we're opening up the chest here. We're lengthening in the waistline a little bit. So we're doing a number of things. The main thing, are you comfortable? You can have your head turned toward your left here, a fraction. It could be relatively neutral with the nose pointed to the sky. If you like it better, turn toward the right, do that. Make sure any sensation you feel, you might just feel comfortable, but if you feel any sensation, we're looking for opening and stretch, not pulling and definitely not pain. Take 1 or 2 more breaths here. Let the legs relax. When you're ready, roll fully back onto your bottom side, pause, and then you're going to reset yourself up so you're lying on your other side. And the nice thing about that, you might think, I didn't have something under my hips. I think I want something under my hips. I had too much under my head. Maybe I need a little less. So I'm going to come along with you and try this out this evening. I have injured hips, so putting pressure on it doesn't feel great even with the padding, but I'm going to give it a try. So again, you're going to be lying on your side. You're on your right hip before, now you're going to be on your left hip. Maybe, since I discovered this blanket behind me was nice, have a blanket, doesn't have to be folded any special way, behind you. And again, you want this long, narrow rectangle that's going to go in between the knee and the ankle joints. If you decide you don't like it there, you don't need it. And then the padding for your head. And you might need more or less padding or different padding on the other side. So roll over now onto your left hip and onto the left side of your head. And before I bring this prop in, I want to give you another little thing you can do. When you do have any situation where you're lying on your side and the bottom hip, too much pressure on it, of course, you could just choose another position. But one thing that also helps is to take the top knee, the top leg, and slide it so the knee is a little past the bottom knee. That's going to transfer a little bit of the weight off your hip and off the part of the hip where the thigh bone comes in, and it's going to be more on the length of your thigh, which might feel a little better. And then you might want to have your space bar here. Make sure that bottom shoulder isn't jammed. This is more comfortable than I thought it was going to be, and rest the top arm on top of the bottom. By the way, in restorative yoga, you can do this as a side lying pose without movement. So you could also just hang out here. So now again, you're going to start by sliding the top arm a little bit along the arm. Bottom arm, bend the elbow, back of the hand to the forehead. Keep your hips stable, but tip the top side of your torso back slightly. Exhale, roll back onto your left side, release the arm, stack it, slide it, lift it, bend it, very dramatic, woe is me. One more time like that, roll back to your side. This is kind of a long series of movements, so hopefully it's something you enjoy. Stack the arms. Notice where the fingertips are. On my other side, my hand was by my wrist. On this side, my top arm can reach a lot further. And that's just something particular to my anatomy and where I might have a structural weird stuff going on. Slide the top fingers along the bottom. On this arm, my fingers actually go past the bottom fingers. Bend the elbow and open it up. Let's do a few more here, but this time we're not going to release the arm. We're just going to roll back onto the side, nice and slow. And inhale, kind of peel that top side of your back. Make sure you're not pulling with your arm. It should be like a gentle falling back. Come back to the start position, ear down. Inhale, open. Exhale, come back. And one more time, inhale and open. Now, you don't want to leave your arm here. That's not comfortable. So bring your arm down and look, the magic blanket just happens to be here. Also my radiator. And then slide your left ribs and your left shoulder a little bit further to the left. And hopefully you're getting this opening across the collarbone area. And hopefully the top leg is relaxed. Some people get a stretch in the hip, which could be good. You could play around with your arm position, have it by your side, behind you. I have to have a wall here, so I could lean it against the wall. That's a little weird. But one thing about doing yoga at home, use what you got. I'm gonna bring my arm overhead on this side. That feels pretty good. Make sure your head is comfortable. You could turn it away from the floor to the floor, right in the middle of your shoulders. Take a few breaths here. On your next inhale, breathe your top hip away from your top armpit. Sometimes this pose can really shorten that distance. So just take a little, actually drop that hip away from the top armpit. Relax your bum. Relax your legs. Take 1 or 2 more breaths here. When you're ready to release from the second side, come back to lying on your side. Top hand presses down, initiate the lift, scoop your bottom arm up. Now you got 2 hands now. And then just come up to a comfortable seated position of any kind, any kind. You might want padding underneath your bum. Maybe you don't want padding underneath your bum. You can sit cross-legged. You can have your legs out in front of you, or you could do a combination of both. I wouldn't recommend this seat. I mean, this leg is cross-legged, but my hip injured leg is just out straight, which is the best I can do with that right now. But find a comfortable seat, case in point, modify if you need to, and sit nice and tall. See if you can line up your shoulders with your hips. Make sure your head isn't protruding forward. You can move your nose back and forth a little bit to find a nice comfy place for the back of your head. Take a small turn of your head to your right, and then back through center, and then over to the other side, to your left. And notice if the head turns maybe feel a little smoother than you might have expected. That movement we did could have loosened up some things in the neck. Take your arms by your side with your fingertips touching. So you got to get your arms wide enough so your palms aren't down. So we want to get a little length through the connective tissues of our arms. Relax your shoulders, relax your jaw, energize your arms away from each other. Energize, let's see, your right arm a little more than the left, and then tip your chin up a fraction and turn your head away from that arm that you're energizing. Take a breath here. And then relax the arms completely. Head back to center. If you're sitting cross-legged, you may want to switch it out and take the other leg in front, or you may just want to change your seat altogether. And we'll do the second side. And take your arms out so it's like a triangle shape with your head at the top of the triangle. Energize your fingertips away from your shoulders. Make sure your shoulders aren't hunched up. Good. Energize through your left arm a little more than your right. Tip your chin up a little bit and turn your head to the right, away from that left arm. And notice you feel any tingling or buzzing in the left arm, or maybe even in the collarbones. Bring it back to center. Good. Roll your wrists around a little bit. Roll your wrists around the other way. Good. Interlace your fingertips up to the webbing. Push your arms forward. Take your arms slightly up, maybe a little more up, maybe all the way up. Again, what feels right for you. Make sure your head is relaxed. Press through your arms. They can be bent if that feels better. Good. And slowly lower your arms. Turn the palms to face you. Notice which pinky's on bottom. Switch it out. Reinterlace. Push the palms forward. You can always start low, lower than your shoulders, and then start inching or quarter inching your arms up. Make sure you go to a place where you maybe feel a mild stretch, but no more than that. If any of you were just coming in or turning on the video, I'm only sitting in this kind of weird way for a hip injury. Sit in any normal cross-legged position or whatever you like. Take your arms out to the side. Oh, that feels so good. Notice how you feel. You may want, no matter how you were sitting, you may want to take both legs out here. Just kind of take the ankles in and out a little bit. And notice if when you take the legs out, if that irritates any injury. Some of you were talking about some injuries you had before we started. And you can point and flex your feet like flippers. Turn your feet in toward each other. Notice if that feels better for your hip. Instead of taking them out and back kind of to neutral, take them in more. out to neutral. So a little Mary Poppins action here. And then when you're ready, let's come to tabletop position. So we're going to be in quadruped pose. If your knees are sensitive, you may want to take a blanket underneath your knees. I'm a little too close to my radiator here, so I'm going to get a little more space. You also may wish to have, if you have them, yoga blocks to place underneath your hands. We're going to do some with the strap unraveled like spaghetti. We're going to do some cat-cow variations, and I'll go over the way most of us usually do it and an alternative. So the regular cat-cow, I hate it when I have to cook it. You don't need the blocks for that. As you inhale, you take a small back bend from crown to tail. And as you exhale, you come to a cat. This is the only cat we might have in class today. My cats are sleeping. You bring your forehead to your pubic bone. And you can continue doing that if that feels good. However, if it doesn't feel good, or if you have osteoporosis on your spine, it's not advisable to round the upper back in that way. And then you could do this version, or you could just do this version because it's different and fun. The inhale part is the same. You take a little back bend. Of course, you're going to be in a different position because your shoulders are higher than your hips because the blocks are here. And then as you exhale, rather than rounding the spine, keep it long. Slide your hips back to create length. And you can even push the blocks forward a little bit. Having the arms lifted like this on the blocks helps resist rounding in the upper back. Inhale back to the back bend. Exhale back to the forward bend. Traditional cat-cow or this variation. Or you can mix it up. And the inhale is always the same, but you can do different forward bends on the exhale. One more time, inhale. On the next exhale, I'm going to invite everyone, instead of rounding the spine, to take their hips back to the heels, to take the knees a little wide, the big toes to touch, and then grab your handy blocks or a handy blanket, place it underneath your forehead, just place something under your head, just to take a few moments in a supported version of child's pose. You can also tuck a blanket behind your, in between the backs of your upper thighs. I'll show you how that looks. Sometimes that can feel nice. Again, feel free to use your mismatched beach towels, and you can pull the blanket right into the knee creases so that both fills up the space and gives you a little cushioning there. If you wear glasses, you might want to take them off. And just support your head and surrender your bum to gravity. Take a few breaths here. And while you're in this forward bend, or maybe something like it, if this doesn't work for you, you can also just be sitting up. Bring your awareness to your upper back. And without forcing anything, the next time you inhale, bring your awareness to your upper back and notice if you feel any expansion from the inside to the outside. Almost as if the breath were pushing from the inside against the inner layer of your skin. The movement we did at the beginning of class may have helped to create spaciousness in the upper back. That's one of the things it can do for us. Two more breaths here. One more breath here. And then slowly release. Come back to table. Take your props to the side. Now with the knees deeply folded like that, the backs of the knees may not be so happy. So stretch out into table. Tuck the toes of your right foot under and stretch your right leg back. Really stretch open the sole of that foot and push the heel gently away from you. Keep the spine long, keep the belly lifted up and in, and then switch legs. Again, you can have padding under your knees here if that is more comforting for your legs. Make sure that the leg is somewhat in line with your hip. You could reach back. I have seen yogis sometimes take the leg out and it's really wide. We'll take that leg back. Good. And then either stand on your knees like so, or if it's comfortable, sit on your legs. Not comfortable for everyone. So just something, and that's a way to sit and roll your wrists around a little bit. And then let's come back to all fours once again. Separate your knees approximately inner hip distance. Tuck the toes under, stretch the leg back. This time, make sure that not only are you getting a satisfying stretch in the sole of your foot and in the back of your leg, that you're not feeling any pulling in the back of your knee and that your hips aren't sloping. I don't know if you can see this. So here, no one's sloping like this, but you want to keep the back of your hips and your low back nice and broad. So like if you had like a bowl of soup there, it wouldn't spill over to one side and the other. It would be right in center. And switch sides. Keep the back of your pelvis nice and even. Good. And then release, bring it back, roll your wrist out a little bit, and let's do one nice thing for our wrists. Come to table one more time. Start with your right hand and turn it out to the right. So we're not turning it to the other hand, we're turning out to the right and keep turning it until the fingertips face your back knee. And your arm might not turn that much, but that's the direction we're going. Out, out, out. Bring that hand pretty close to your knee, and you might get a stretch in the wrist and in the forearm right here. If you don't feel a stretch, you're going to slowly inch or quarter inch your arm forward until you can feel a satisfying stretch and feeling of length in your forearm. This could feel really good depending on what you do for work. Another thing that could feel good, like my feet were being restless, anchor your feet, gently press your toes down. So we're not so restless, and then slowly peel the hand off. Start at the base of the hand and then roll the wrist around or just make any movement with the hand. Second side, your left hand now, spin the arm to the left. Spin it, maybe the fingertips will point your knee. They may not end up there. Bring the hand close to your knee and keep inching or quarter inching the hand forward until you feel a comfortable stretch in the inside of the forearm and in the wrist. Make sure you're not torturing yourself. You just want to feel a nice, comfortable stretch and spaciousness. Take a breath into that. One side may be much tighter than the other. And then slowly peel that wrist up and just move your wrist in some fashion. So let's see how we do with a supported back bend. So you're going to take one towel or blanket, and you're going to fold it again so you have a rectangle shape that is narrower than your shoulders. So you want it to be, so when you lie down, it's not going to be as broad as your shoulders. And so the width of it can vary a little bit. And you're going to take that down on your mat vertically. Then take another blanket or a towel and fold it into a more pillowy shape, like a rectangle. Ideally, it's the same thickness as this one. And place it at the top, so it'll look like a capital letter T. Now, if you have either a stack of blankets or a bolster or a big couch cushion, gather those together. I'm just going to use a bunch of blankets. So I'm going to do it since naturally we all don't have yoga props. So this is just a stack of mismatched towels. And this is going to be my bolster tonight. Even that one, which I was going to do something else with. How do you like that? A homemade bolster. Now we're going to sit with our bum right here. So this, you figure, is going to go into the backs of your knees. There's like a well of space here. Your bum's going to go here. You're going to lengthen your spine on this. Depending on your height, your head might end up on that vertical blanket, or if you're taller, your head's going to be up here. And then once you get into the pose, there are some adjustments we can make when we're there, but you want to make sure that your bum is here, your back is here, and that when you're in the pose, you don't feel like the back of your lumbar spine is curving more. If it is, have another handy blanket, come up again and place that in the well, and your bum is gonna go on that. That's gonna raise the hips a little bit. I'm gonna use this handy folded towel and one yoga block. I'm gonna put them on either side of the mat to use as armrests. So take a moment to look at this seemingly, especially if you're not using yoga props, it looks very random, but it's very, very, very specific. So I'm sitting in the well, found my glasses again, and I'm gonna loop my legs over my, oh, it's nice, my homemade bolster. So you don't really want to do this with straight legs. That could be irritating. Make sure there's like the width of just your hands can fit between the blanket and your body. Otherwise, you don't want this bunching up. And then when you're ready, move my hand rest for a moment. When you're ready, come to lying down. Decide, now because I'm short, my head does not even reach this blanket, but you might want to have your head higher. So if your head doesn't reach the blanket, you can put this under your head. And then you can use props. Yes, you can use 2 matching yoga blocks, but maybe you don't have 2 blocks. So you can take the backs of your hands on this, palms up. Now, because I don't think anyone has the camera on. The downside is I can't come around and help you individually. So I'm going to talk a lot about things you might be experiencing and how to fix them. If they don't apply to you, don't worry about it. Head has to be comfortable. We don't want our chin jutting up. We don't want our head feeling like it's falling down. So add height under the head as needed. Because the prop is narrower than us, you should feel that your collarbones are kind of sloping down and your shoulders are lower than your sternum. That's what we're aiming for here to create a supported back bend. You don't have to use props under your hand, as I have here just to show you. Make sure your low back feels comfortable, like a normal low back. That it doesn't feel flatter than usual, or it doesn't feel more arched than usual. The legs should just be cozy. I forgot to mention, if you have another blanket, cover yourself. So I'm going to invite you to stay in this pose. You don't have to time it, but just so you know what I would plan for several minutes. But come out anytime you need to. If it's uncomfortable, if you need to adjust something, or you just don't want to stay in for the 3-4 minutes that I'm going to have you in the pose. When we do restorative yoga, we do stay in the poses. There is an advantage to that. The opening we get in the chest here is similar to what you would get if you were on the floor, like so. The floor is where my hands are, and you were doing a cobra. That's about the opening you get here. So we're staying in the pose because we're gifted by the pose with the opening in the chest, the softening of the shoulders, and other nice little relaxing pieces. And we're not using muscular effort to get there. As you stay in the pose, check in and check out. Check in to make sure you're comfortable, and then check out and relax. Check in to make sure you're comfortable, and check out to add or subtract or switch out a prop. So follow that, periodically checking in. If you feel comfortable, you don't even need to check in. Your body will probably tell you when it needs some tweaking. If this is so uncomfortable that you don't even want to have the vertical blanket underneath you, by all means, just come to lying on your mat and maybe have your legs elevated. Most people like that part for sure. And then I'm going to take you on a little guided breath tour, very brief, but you can do it in the pose if you're comfortable, or just flat on your back if you're not comfortable on the vertical blanket under your spine. Bring your awareness to your breath. Notice your inhale and your exhale. Your next exhale, invite your body to soften as you would do for Shavasana. Invite your body to sink and soften into this supported back bend. Let go of rigidity. Invite your body to let go of tension. I know just saying let go of tension isn't going to let it go, but we can invite, you can always send an invitation to a part of your body and ask it to relax. Bring your awareness to your upper chest, and if you like, you could place a hand there if you feel you'd like to have the sense of touch. And the next time you inhale, take a slightly longer or slower breath, and notice if you feel the gentle rising of the chest as you breathe in. And the yielding of the chest downward as you exhale. Then just breathe. This is an interval type breathing practice. I call it rhythm breath, and the rhythm is one more focused, longer breath, followed by a few regular ones, not one intentionally longer breath after another, which would not be comfortable. Now bring your awareness to the sides of your rib cage. When we did that moving pose that had a lot of working pieces, we were inviting a little length here. So bring your awareness to the sides of your rib cage, or you could bring your hands there. And the next time you inhale, take a gentle, expansive, but unforced breath, and notice if you feel or sense in any way lateral expansion. If the rib cage is widening or it's falling into your hands, if your hands are there, and exhale, notice if you feel a different shift on exhale. And then just take a few regular breaths here, or the body is breathing you, you're not interfering or changing the breath in any way, but you can bring your awareness to any movement you detect in the sides of you. And then bring your awareness, and not a hand, to your upper back. So think about where your upper chest is and bring your awareness to the coordinating spot on your upper back. And without force, take a slightly longer inhale. Because you're lying on the back, you might not feel the movement, but it is there, spanning from the inside to the back to the outside. And exhale and let that go. And then for your next few breaths, if this is of interest to you, just keep focusing on noticing any subtlety of breath as you inhale and exhale in the upper back. If you're interested in exploring further, bring your awareness to the front of you, particularly the upper chest, which was our first stop on the tour. The sides of you, above the waistline, side ribs up toward the armpits, and the upper back, the shoulder blade area. And without force, the next time you inhale, invite your breath to be a little longer or a little slower, so you could feel maybe the front to back expansion, the side to side expansion. You might even feel top to bottom expansion. And as you exhale, let your exhale contract you in a sense. And then just breathe naturally. Exploring your breath as you open your chest and your heart in the back bend, or just resting here without thinking about anything. Let the breath be natural and easy. When you are ready to release, which might be now or a minute from now, but when you're ready, you're going to bend your knees and place your feet on the floor. That's the first step. And that could also release if you maybe were a little too arched in the low back and you didn't realize it. You might feel, oh, that felt really good. Maybe my back was a little arched. Then, if you have a side that you're most comfortable on, roll over to that side. And you can rest with the bottom side of you on that long blanket that you had there, or you could take it out completely. I do suggest something underneath your head. Bend your knees. This is the same position we started, in the sense we were lying on our side, knees bent. You may want to take a blanket and place it between your inner knee and your inner ankle, like so. And just rest here for a few breaths. One more breath. And slowly lift your top leg up, get that foot to the floor. You're using the blanket. Take that away, roll onto your back, but keep your props within reach no matter what they are. And we're going to do a small twist. And you might want to have some props handy to support it when we pause in the twist. So take your feet wide and your arms wide and just start windshield wiping your knees a little bit from side to side, just a little. And those of you with sciatica or hip, if when you bring your legs a little too far, then you know you're going to keep it like this, right? If you find that as you tip the knees back and forth from side to side, it's feeling pretty good, you can make the movement a little bigger, but keep it slow. Keep it slow. If you feel comfortable doing a twist today, the next time your knees come over to the right, you can catch the outer right leg with a prop. You can also catch the inner left thigh with a prop. You can slide your torso a fraction toward the right and take your arms out in any comfortable position. You can turn your head away from your bent knees or keep it neutral. Let your legs be heavy, your jaw soft. One more breath here. When you're ready, roll the soles of your feet back to the floor, shift your hips to center, and you may want to use your props differently on the second side. So when you're ready, take your knees over to the other side, and it's always possible that one side might not be comfortable due to an injury you have. Again, you might want to take something underneath the outer thigh of the left leg. And here you can see how I use a block sometimes to prop the other thigh, bring it very close to the buttock. And then you can turn your head away from your bent knees, keep it in neutral, or turn it to the same side. Relax your arms. We'll take a few breaths here. One more breath. When you're ready, lift your knees, roll the soles of your feet down, and prepare for Shavasana. So you may want to sprawl on your mat, arms out to the side, palms upward. You may also want to use loads of props. You may want to take a blanket under your head. You may want to gather in your sloppy stack of mismatched blankets and use that as a bolster underneath your legs. I won't be in Shavasana lying down the whole time. I'll be setting up, but I'll show you some ways you can get into it. Again, here I have the stack of sloppy blankets, and I have one thing under my head. Shavasana, it's usually nice to have something under your head. You may want to cover yourself. I won't do that because I'll fall asleep. Another nice thing you can do if you have blankets or towels, you can take those by your side And rest your arms on those. That could feel nice. Just make sure it doesn't hike your shoulder up because you want create a lot of nice opening in the chest with that back bend. You don't want to shut it all down, right? So have the shoulders down with the arms supported. Cover yourself with a blanket, eye pillow if you like. A folded up washcloth works fine as an eye pillow. Close your eyes. Check in with your body as you did in the beginning of class, just to notice if there's any areas of tension that you can invite to let go. Or if there's any additional prop you might need, or a slight tweak of an arm or a leg to position yourself for maximum comfort. And then when you get to that comfy, cozy place, surrender to it. Stay comfortable. Let your head be heavy, but your jaw soft. Give up your unspoken words. Release them into the air and let them sail away. Surrender your shoulders down and let them drip like raindrops to the earth. Relax your hands. Notice if they're holding on to tension. Let the fingers gently curl and the palms open. Feel the earth through the pathway of the floor in your home. Support your back. Support your hips. Support your legs. Relax your feet. Relax your toes. Invite spaciousness to creep into any tight places, whether they're in your jaw, in your belly, in a hip, or maybe the tight place is not a body part. Maybe the tight place is in your mind, where we hold so much tension. See if you can find spaciousness in the attic of your mind. Take a few more breaths in a quiet, quiet, quiet pose. Breathing naturally. Moving only to create more comfort. Easy inhale, smooth exhale. know that in the quiet stillness of your home and your mind, you can take as long a Shavasana as you like. It actually helps prepare you for a nice, good night's rest. And I'll slowly lead you out, because even though your Shavasana can continue, our class does need to come to an end. First, bring your awareness back to your breath. Just notice your breath, anything about it, its ease, the way it fills you and expands you, the way it sounds. And then you may want to stretch or yawn. And then from lying on the floor, bend your knees, place your feet lightly on your yoga mat. And when you're ready, ease over to your most comfortable side. Rest on your side. And then get up like I showed you before. Whatever arm is on top, that hand first. Push into that hand, scoop the other arm underneath you, and then both arms lift you back up to a comfortable seated position. Again, not the way I'm sitting, which is a variation that helps me feel comfortable while an injury gets better. Take your time to get to sitting, and remember, we don't need to have you sitting at all. Enjoy a longer Shavasana if you wish. Or if you'd like to join us in a sense for the closing of the practice, wherever you are, lying down or sitting up, you like join your hands together. Feel their warmth. Draw your hands to your heart center and connect those two important places, and then bow your head down. So making a pathway, head to heart, heart to hands, whichever direction you go in, all connected. Your heart, your hands, and your head. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Peace, Peace, Peace. Namaste.